The following is a conversation. It has the features of any conversation, such as imperfectly expressed thoughts, ill-considered opinions, and the notions of several sleep-deprived brains. Try not to get your stethoscope in a twist about it.
Meandering in the margins of medicine, it's the Shortcoat Podcast.
Weird news,
fresh views,
helpful clues, and interviews.
By students, for students.
Subscribe to our weekly show at theshortcoat.com.
Welcome back to the Shortcoat Podcast, a production of the University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine. This is a show that gives you an inside look at medical school from the students drinking from that fire hose.
Glug glug.
I thought we were going to say Kool-Aid.
I'm Dave Etler. With me today in the SCP studio, better than a popcorn shirt, it's M2 Noah Wick.
Hey, what's going on?
Eye-catching like cargo shorts and a sparkly shrug. M2 Shana Liu is here.
Hi.
Like a faux fur vest. It's M4 Nathen Spitz.
What's shaking?
And the Jingo Jeans of podcasting, MD PhD student Aline Sanduk is here.
Hi. I'm not cool enough to be Jinko Jeans, but thank you.
Wait, what's your outfit? What's your outfit of choice?
Yeah.
I was a child of the 80s, so I probably would have to go back to like, acid wash jeans and a, I don't know what they were called, but there was a sleeveless button down
a vest
thing. Nah, it wasn't. I mean, yeah, but it wasn't what you think of when you think of vests. Okay. So
the assless chaps of
the assless. Yes, yes, I had my assless chaps.
It was a backless vest, actually.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't all chaps assless?
Are they?
I don't have a lot of...
I doubt it. Like, I feel like if they have to
I feel like you're the one...
I feel like if they have to qualify that it's assless, that there are chaps with coverage.
Hey, it's orientation week. We're welcoming the medical student class of 2026. This is the week during which it's common to see our new students cycling between expressions of unbridled joy at their achievement, getting into medical school, and inner terror as they wonder what they've gotten themselves into.
They're so full of life.
Yeah.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
What do you guys remember about the first semester? What when you think about that, what comes to mind?
I remember like having eyelid twitching. Like I was like be sitting there and like my eyelids were like fluttering, and I had to Google, is this the start of med student syndrome? Like, what is going on? Oh my God. And they talked, I think on like WebMD, the first 3 signs were like, you like have little sleep, you're over caffeinated and stressed.
And you're like, oh, check.
Correct. Yep.
Blepharospasms for me. Yeah.
Look at you knowing all the science terms.
Wow.
Very nice.
I like to break them out once in a while.
God,
Did it take you a while to find your people?
Yeah, it did. It did a little bit. The podcast was like the highlight, I would say, kind of right off the bat. Because I was here over the summer, and that was when I did my first recording with you.
Oh.
Back when, do you guys remember this? Back when you would wheel this, like the recording equipment to the learning community. I can't remember when you stopped doing that.
I had a cart.
I didn't know that.
I had a cart. If you go to theshortcoat.com and you look at the banner image, which has not changed since then.
Yeah.
The cart is visible, and you can see we wheeled it into the communities. It had a giant, computer on it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I felt it like it was a pretty clever thing.
Meet the people where they're at. Yeah.
But also it was hard to do sound.
Yeah.
In a way that I thought was acceptable. So here we are in our own little space,
our little world,
and I love it.
Yeah.
But I did feel real clever.
Yeah. My class was full of very confident people, I remember. And there was a real energy on day one of like, yeah, of course I got into med school. Like, of course I'm going to do well.
Yes, you're right.
Or like, maybe it was just like the energy of some of the people that I was around, but like everyone just seemed so prepared and like, I don't know, just confident.
Such bullshit.
Yeah. I don't, maybe it was like,
maybe it's a personal perception thing.
Yeah, it could have been.
Know.
Yeah.
Like,
I certainly was wearing anxiety colored glasses.
Right.
A lot. Yeah. But yeah, it was a little nerve wracking, but it's better now.
Yeah, no, I remember the orientation being like so draining after every single day because like it was so much socializing with new people, and you're being like, hey, like, do I actually like these people, or like, like it's like dating, we're like, do I actually like this person, or do they, am I just like excited about having a new friend, so the semester itself was
hard. It started off like I thought I was like doing so well, and then like I don't know, there was like a halfway point, like an inflection point, and then like suddenly everything got really really hard. I was like, what's going on?
Exam 2 in what class?
Foundation.
I think for me it took until we switched to MOHD, and then I was like, oh, here we go. Yeah, I was like, oh, we're doing it. Yeah.
I vividly remember the like staring at my computer. Like I don't think I can name the exact date, but it was like the third unit where we were doing like nucleotide synthesis and like leg anatomy, and just like over the weekend that like bubbling feeling of like, oh shit, did I like make the wrong choice? So like some context, was a big like psychology major, like loved all of my psychology classes, like came to medical school like specifically for psychiatry. And this was like the farthest thing from like what I wanted for my future. And to have that like intensity, to have such like focus on like so many aspects of things that I like didn't enjoy, didn't care about. Like this was the farthest thing I think from like what I envisioned medical school to be like for me.
You had to know though that you were going to spend a lot of time in the classroom. It just maybe you hadn't internalized what that meant.
Correct. And I'm so stubborn. Even if somebody would like showed me a video of like, this is like what your life is going to be like, I'm sure my stubbornness like as a 20-year-old would have been like, oh, it can't be that bad. I don't know. It wasn't unbearable, but I remember like over our cadaver bodies in anatomy lab, like having actual like cry sessions with my lab buddies over like, did we make a mistake? Like this is tough.
Is that gel with you, Shana?
Yeah, I actually came to medical school with a similar intention to Nathen. It's actually my peer mentor. Interesting fact.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Cool. But yeah, I felt like that a lot over first semester, isn't it? Yeah, he's a great peer mentor. Highly recommend him.
It's too late.
Get him on top. Yeah. Beasting out.
Noah and I actually met very early on during orientation week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds like an old married couple.
I regret it every day. No, first semester was really hard. I felt tired for most of it. That's like the one word I could use to describe it. But it was good because I met a lot of people that I like, lots of friends that I still have today. So that was good. I'm glad for that.
Yeah. I feel like I blacked out. Like I feel like it went by so fast.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I remember having the feeling every day of like not even knowing where to start. Just being so incredibly overwhelmed because like the class load is significant. I mean, it's right. Like,
I've heard. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that people not in med school can even conceive of being in 6 to 7 hour-long lectures that were just back to back and having lunch off. But usually lunch was filled with like other extracurriculars, right? So like even that wasn't really a break. And then you get home at the end of the day and you just want to like, have a bite to eat and relax for a second and be like, oh no, I have all this material to review from today and prepare for tomorrow. It was just so like nothing in my life had prepared me for how to tackle this mountain of information. It was really, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I think you had it too. The fatigue and the novelty, like of almost everything being new, was especially like taxing in the first semester of how do I study? Like here's like 3 or 4 like new classes I like hadn't taken physiology before. Just like everything was new in that first semester. The new like this was a different circumstance.
Well.
But you people in the audience should still do it. You should still think
There's really
about
great things.
Yeah, it's
a lot
not
of
all
laughs
bad.
over here in the Carver College of Medicine.
Yes.
It's on our throw pillows.
What a
Lots of
terrible
laughs.
day.
Lots of laughs.
Some of it is laugh or cry, but
Yeah.
You can do both at the same time.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what's nice about it.
Oh my God, there's a podcast, literally. What's it called? It's like called Harry Buttholes.
Oh,
sorry. No.
Sorry,
So
not
there's like,
quite.
I don't want to like misrepresent this, but it's like a term in Korean, I believe, where if you like laugh and cry at the same time, you can grow hair around your anal region.
What?
Okay, yeah.
This
people
is
are
a
gonna have to,
Korean saying?
Yeah, and so there's like podcast, so she's a comedian and she'll like bring on guests and like have them share some of their like darkest, like most intense moments and then also like try and make them laugh. And
Korean listeners, if you know this saying in Korean, call 347-SHORT-CT and leave it on our voicemail. And I'd love to hear what this sounds like in Korean because I bet it sounds different and more, I don't know, pleasant than hairy buttholes.
An idiom,
Yeah. Also, what is the full idiom? I'm sure it's just not like, oh, hairy buttholes. It's got to be more than that.
You're asking the wrong. I'm shooting from the hip.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking our many Korean listeners.
He's calling your bluff, Nathan. He's like, tell me more about this supposed thing.
You caught me. I learned this last night. I learned this
fair enough.
last night.
I'm glad you brought it up. Wow. It's a lot of fun.
That's like at med school. Like med school is just a hairy butthole. Like you laugh, you cry, oftentimes at the same time. And
I've not.
Med school is also a lot of learning things last night and talking about like you know what's going on.
Correct that overconfident, that like projected confidence.
It'd be like, like hey, you guys haven't heard about this thing? Yeah.
Just don't ask me any like follow up questions about it. And I mean, I feel like we accomplished something similar here, right?
Yeah.
We talk about hard things and funny things.
Yeah. I don't want to steal their line, but I like it.
Yeah.
After a nice long COVID-19 pandemic, what's more refreshing than another global pandemic? The current monkeypox outbreak, which, by the way, that's not supposed to be the official name anymore. The current monkeypox outbreak has been elevated to a national health emergency this past week, signaling that officials are concerned about the growing caseload trend in the U.S. I mean, nobody wants the painful rash, fever, chills, exhaustion, muscle aches, headache. What else I got here? Soreth?
Are you on
the hell is that? Sore throat.
Okay.
Congestion,
cough. Are you on WebMD right now?
Sore throat, congestion, cough, 2 to 4 weeks duration of illness, and I understand it's pretty painful.
Oh my goodness, the most like horrifying ones I've heard is if people have like perirectal or anal lesions. Like I've heard it described as sitting on glass.
Broken glass. Sitting on broken glass.
Oh
I read Satan reaching up inside me too.
I wasn't going to go that far, but
it sounds pretty bad.
Yeah.
I guess the silver lining in this recent situation is that the virus is relatively low amount of deaths so far, and that there is a vaccine for monkeypox that already exists somehow.
Yeah, there's 2. Yeah, so there's the Jynneos, which I think is just a smallpox vaccine, and then I think there was also a more recently made, like in the past 10 or 20 years, monkeypox specific vaccine in response to like growing endemic cases in Africa.
And we had like 20, I think what I'd heard was like 20 million doses like available. And then like we just like let them all expire.
Yeah. Of the smallpox vaccine.
Now we only have
of the monkeypox or smallpox?
Oh, again, I learned this last night.
I think this is the smallpox one.
The smallpox vaccine, yeah. Because
smallpox was supposedly eradicated.
Right. But then we paid for another one to be developed in case it was ever used as bioterrorism.
Oh, right.
So we paid for a new smallpox vaccine to be developed, and then we just let the doses that we paid for expire.
Yeah. What I do remember is
humans are very bad at predicting the future, I think.
Yeah. There's one thing.
But we did know. I mean, they did predict it, right? Like they predicted it. They made all the vaccines. Like assuming that,
then some other humans took over and they were like, whatever.
Yeah.
There's also the T-pox, a smallpox drug treatment that has been used for severe monkeypox. So anyway, Noah, you looked into all this, and what have you found out?
I think it's just been frustrating again, right? Seeing how the U.S. has sort of struggled to respond to another viral contagion, you might say.
Yeah.
Like what we're at, I checked yesterday, we're like 7,400 cases. Question mark?
Leading the world again.
Leading the world. Let's go. USA, baby.
Number one.
Not by percentage.
Oh, like you mean per capita?
Number?
By absolute number, yes.
Yeah.
He's a statistics guy.
I'm learning. I've learned.
He's an epidemiologist.
Spasm. We've got Soreth. We've got...
But yeah, like I mean, there was the whole issue too. I don't know if I think that was in some of the readings that like the U.S. really just sort of sat on their hands for about a month before ordering more vaccine as well. And we're really only seeing like vaccines become widespreadly available for populations at high risk, like within the last 2 weeks, and this has been, we've known about this since June, and so it's even with all, like we kind of had our thumb on the scale with the advantages, right? It was a known entity. We knew that monkeypox existed. We had a vaccine for it. We have a treatment for it. We have a test for it. And like, whereas those were all the issues at the start of COVID, and still we kind of just are like, oh yeah,
frittering away our advantages.
Right. And it's such an it's not like COVID too, or we suspect it's not like COVID in the sense where it's highly transmissible when you're not overtly symptomatic. as well. You only start being sort of transmissible when you start having symptoms, whether that be fever or the rash begins or things like that. And so it's like,
it's funny, we keep learning this lesson, I think, of preparedness. It seems to have parallels for me to the early days or the early years of HIV, where, you know, like HIV, this initially is talked about as a gay men's disease.
Right.
And same thing with HIV. It was for a long time, you know, reported and thought of years as a gay men's disease. And so,
right.
Which, you know, hopefully we'd have moved beyond that, but there's a little bit of that in this.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the issue always with new infectious diseases, is that they always sort of get thought of as like the problem of the community they initially appear in.
A problem of a small group of people that we don't have to really worry too much about.
And so it's like the same thing again, you know, where now we have monkeypox predominantly spreading among, for now, men who have sex with men. And, you know, we're seeing sort of, not only in the popular media, but we've seen some political figures as well say like
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Who have been like, oh, this is just this is a gay man's problem. Like, I'm not really concerned about it. Right. And for now the majority of the cases are among gay men, and there's the percentage of cases that are among gay men continues to go down, though. Every day cases like among the general population continue to go up, because it turns out gay men don't exist in isolation. Not just in Fire Island. They're actually members of the community, you know, live with people, have families. So and I'm sort of, I don't know, I think it's, you know, with the response, it's starting to finally heat up a bit, which is good. It's just sort of a matter of seeing if it's going to be in time for, like, I don't know, school coming back into session. Like, and you can imagine if a kid gets monkeypox. Yeah.
Oh, there's already been.
Yeah.
I think there's. Thanks. I think there's already been. I forgot we didn't mention on the show that my son starts college this week. So great.
Yeah.
And I think, there was also a reported situation where
caregiver, right?
A caregiver in a daycare.
Yeah.
So all these kids have likely been exposed, and, you know.
Yeah.
So currently you can get a vaccine, I believe, currently it's offered vaccines to those with the disease. So again, unlike coronavirus, the vaccines are effective for people who have monkeypox already.
Yeah. So it's it's sort of like a or post-exposure prophylaxis, where once someone has been identified as either being exposed to a confirmed case or is starting to show symptoms, that if you give them a vaccine dose, there is some evidence that suggests the course of disease is less severe in those individuals and is a more rapid, like, I don't know, recovery process from it. But they are now in Iowa, officially, we've expanded to offer to populations at high risk as well. So in Iowa, that is exclusively, I think, men who have sex with men, I think trans individuals as well. And then folks, again, who have like been either knowingly exposed or at like a location where there was a confirmed case.
So you don't vaccinate to prevent sort of contracting the virus. You vaccinate to mitigate the course of disease.
So both. So yeah.
Again, I think now the efforts are especially to like triage with the like limited like amount of vaccines like readily available.
What are the long-term sequelae of having monkeypox? Like, is there long-term neurological damage or anything like that?
That's a good question, and one that I do not know off the top of my head. I'm not sure, like, in terms of like chronic health conditions, what results are. I know from a cosmetic side, there is like scarring, but right, I'm not sure if there's like losses in sensation or things like that.
It can be lesion dependent too. Like if you get it on your eyes, it like can lead to blindness, for example. So I think it's kind of like a lesion
like
dependent.
In an ideal world, we would want to preventatively kind of vaccinate people. Okay.
Yes. Yep. I don't remember if this was for some like local like health organization. Was it New York? I don't remember exactly who it was. They wanted to ixnay slutty summer and wait for anal autumn. So slutty summer is out, anal autumn is in.
If you get your vaccines.
Correct. Yeah.
It's good messaging.
Yeah.
And I've definitely been seeing more concerted efforts from like public health departments and like experts and things like that, at least on like social media or mainstream media channels, kind of like trying to at least like take control of that or exert more control over that narrative and to offer, for example, like helpful, practical like tips on how to like stay safe during this pandemic or epidemic.
Well, I think, I mean, I suspect part of that is just that, you know, we ramped up all of these channels, you know, whether they were official channels or unofficial channels of people, you know, epidemiologists. And I'm thinking of, there's Dr. Knock on Instagram, NOC, I think is how you spell that. But he's an epidemiologist who did a lot of work to talk very simply and quickly about COVID. And so people like him and others are, you know, sort of already ready to disseminate that information, which is helpful. And then there are others.
Yeah.
I think one of the big takeaways from the COVID situation is that we can't rely on the federal government to address things appropriately. And like in an ideal world, you should. That's what our taxes are for. We pay you.
She has her "Don't tread on me" flag in the background.
I mean, you know, this is why you pay taxes.
You're right. You're so right.
You fund these organizations so that they can address problems, so you don't have to worry about them. And I'm not saying it's good that we can't. Like, I wish that we could.
I think you also though want a multi-prong approach, because one of the things that we learned from COVID is that there is a healthy portion of the population or an unhealthy portion of the population, depending on how you look at it, who don't trust messaging from the government, no matter where it's coming from. And you know, maybe that's less of a factor in this particular outbreak, but I think having a multi-pronged approach to these sorts of things is probably a good idea. And if that means, you know, getting Charlie DeMello to talk about it, well, I guess let's
get a TikTok dance.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, is that one of the silver linings to all this is seeing like state agencies be a little more proactive, being like, okay, we can't rely on these assholes. We have to take care of our own.
Yeah.
The problem with that is in states where there's less infrastructure and less regard for these issues, like they're the people that depend on the federal government to kind of pick up the slack. So I don't,
Well, maybe now that we know these things, we can, you know, the government can sort of target its.
Maybe we could fund public health more.
Maybe, we could do that, or at least target its efforts in more targeted ways,
intelligent ways.
Intelligent ways. Well, do we think this is going to continue to spread? Will we get a handle on it? What are we thinking at this point?
It'll spread.
Yeah.
It'll spread.
Okay, good.
I mean, I think I'm hopeful that like with the ramped up efforts in vaccinations and like, so for right now, for example, like TPOXX, the treatment, like because it had like the expanded access, you know, because it wasn't like FDA cleared, it was taking like hours and hours and hours for providers to like complete paperwork for like one person, which just like was like a logistical like nightmare for so many people across the country. And now like that's starting to get like streamlined as well. So it's like becoming easier to access both vaccines and treatments within, I would say like 2 months, you know, I guess within like 2 months of some of like the first confirmed cases in the US, which I think is so different from COVID-19 that like hit the US in January, and like it took almost like an entire year before it was like starting to become like mass distributed amongst the US. So I think although like we definitely have not like flattened the curve, I'm like hopeful that we won't see the same trajectory thus far.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully.
I think I'm a little more pessimistic. I think it's, and again, because I think monkeypox is a little bit more of a known beast, I think like there's a reality where we do get a pretty good handle on it. But I think like, I don't know, with how lethargic the response has been thus far, I think it's, I sort of envision the case count being underestimated. And, you know, sort of see that, which granted, I think monkeypox is a more overt classical syndrome than like COVID is, where it's like, oh, I just have a cold. You know, like someone could reasonably think they just have a cold, whereas someone has monkeypox, probably a little bit more like they're like, oh,
obvious,
it has a more visceral impact on people because they can see how detrimental it is.
Yeah, they're like, oh, yeah, I have lesions everywhere. That's not great. And so I don't know, but I would envision it being a problem throughout the rest of the year, certainly into next year. And I think these sort of next 2 months are going to sort of see if we get a hold on it or if it keeps spreading.
Do you think the nature of this disease lends itself to eradication like smallpox, or do you think it's more like coronavirus where it's going to become
Well, I mean, the thing with smallpox, which was nice, was that it only infected humans.
Oh.
Yeah. that was a good way to start that sentence, though. Yeah, it only infected humans. And so there is currently no known reservoir animal for smallpox. And so once you vaccinate everyone for smallpox, you can't get it anymore. And so the issue with a lot of I think polio is another virus where it only infects, I might be completely misspeaking, because that's another candidate for eradication, except for now it's being, I think there was cases of it there's polio in the wastewater in New York. Apparently.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's like
more news this week. Right?
Yeah. So like that would be another candidate for eradication because it only infects humans. Other diseases like monkeypox, where there is an endemic or like a reservoir animal, I think monkeypox is actually rodents.
Prairie dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there is a reservoir animal, it's harder because you're saying like, oh, okay, we're never going to have an encounter with this animal again. That's going to lead to an infection. That's going to lead to transmission. And so, I mean, it's like the same thing like with Ebola, with like, I don't know, SARS, MERS. Like, you could technically have another outbreak of those at any given moment. It's just by, the grace of God that, we continue to not have those cases. So, but I mean, in a more direct sense, I think there is a potential to like get it back to the point where we only have like minor case clusters again if we do get this one under
there are
control.
other viruses like hantavirus that you don't hear much about.
Lots of virus.
Was it Lenya that there was just like now
that's
like
the one that's again in the news.
Like,
We've got a lot of viruses in the news.
Like Marburg, right?
Yeah, Marburg. Yeah, a lot of
shrews, right? For lang whatever.
God, you are digging into the deep reason. I don't remember. Don't quote me.
I mean, it's almost like when we are like destroying animal habitats and leading to more confrontation between humans and animals, that we're going to see more spillover, right, of disease.
Well, also, I mean, climate change is really sort of, affecting how diseases, the locations in which they're seen and the types of exposures people have.
Yeah.
So
it's a fun time.
It's great.
It's good.
It's so good.
Cool and normal. I think like the only other thing I would add too is I think there's been discourse as well about like from public health perspective about messaging as like that has been specifically targeting the queer community or particularly men who have sex with men because that like feels like it's promoting the idea that it's a gay disease. And so I think there's like sort of this intrinsic, I don't know, there's a balance there, right? Because on one hand, you're wanting to reach the community that is highest at risk, and has a majority of the cases and say, hey, this is an issue. We want, you to be aware and we want you to get vaccinated, with also balancing the fact that in our current political climate, you have a lot of folks and individuals who will latch on to that. And I mean, I guess it's been the political climate since like, the 1980s. But
yeah, I mean, I think that's probably just human nature.
Yeah.
We feel like we're sort of whistling in the dark. And so we're like, okay, well, this is only a problem for certain people.
Yeah, we're going to immediately put it on the other group. So, I think that's always a challenge. I'm interested to hear what y'all's thoughts on that are as well.
What I was going to say is, to the credit of the LGBT community, it is extremely well organized, I feel like. And like, get the word out quickly. There's a strong sense of community in the LGBT community, like like you saw during the HIV, epidemic, is that, I mean, I guess less so now than at that time because, being LGBTQ is more acceptable now. But, in the 80s, it was really tragic. People were dying alone, and because the law was so unenlightened, people's loved ones couldn't even be, like their true loved ones couldn't even be in the room with them. But my hope is that like there's a lot of really unique features to the LGBT community that will position them to neutralize maybe some of this risk.
Speaking of some of that, some of the inter-community or intra-community, and I don't know how I feel about like shame like concept, but I feel like I've been seeing like it's traditionally like in like psychological research, like not a super effective tool in getting people to adapt behavior, but like at least on social media channels, like I have been, I think, seeing like successful like shame tactics used to like hopefully like exert more like public pressure to like really like we just saw what happened with COVID. Like if you've been exposed, if you're like have a potential exposure, like get vaccinated, stay the F home. Like we just not that we went through it, we are still going through it, but like after having like recently gone through this, I've been seeing a lot more kind of like of that negative pressure online. I don't think that it's like necessarily specific to the LGBTQ plus community, but it's often done tactfully or with humor mixed in as well. But I don't know, I'll be like interested to see if that kind of like shaming also like helps or not.
We'll see.
We will see.
Yeah.
Sashay, wait.
Listeners, if you ask us a question, it means that I don't have to make something up to talk about on the show, and the show becomes what you want it to be. So send your questions to theshortcoats@gmail.com or leave a message at 347-SHORT-CT. We'll talk about it on the show. As we begin a new year of medical education here at Iowa with a new class of incoming students, maybe this is a timely study to think about. The BMC Medical Education Journal published an article recently exploring students' high, moderate, and low utility learning techniques and how they relate to perceived learning difficulties. The Germany-based authors surveyed 488 women and 242 men, asking about their use of 10 learning techniques. There they are.
Oh, thank you.
And I've emboldened those that were the most commonly used. Highlighting, let me put there we go. Highlighting, self-explanation, and practice testing. What do you think of those?
I would agree.
Yeah.
You would agree that those are the most common?
Most commonly,
Okay.
Yeah, most commonly used, yes.
Okay.
Do you
I think
have any
rereading
opinions
would
about
be-
their effectiveness?
Practice testing is very effective, I think. Being able to actually apply the knowledge that you learn and making sure you understand the concepts. But highlighting and underlining is...
low yield.
Yeah. I mean, I do it, but
I
it is
know.
I don't do it. I just do it when I read, like...
Yeah, the first pass. That's good. Yeah, it's nice for a first pass.
Yeah,
to
but
keep your-
you're not really going to retain any information from that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the imagery for text. I think that's very effective.
Imagery for text. This one I had to look up because I wasn't quite sure what this
It's
was.
like sketchy, right?
I assume, yeah.
Let me read these for our listeners. We've got elaborate interrogation. We've got self-explanation. We've got summarization, highlighting and underlining, keyword mnemonic, imagery for text, rereading, practice testing, distributed practice, and interleave practice. Okay, I've done my duty.
Yeah.
And you were saying?
Yeah, as you're reading them, I'm realizing I don't know what a lot of these mean, but personally, the one that stuck out to me. I mean, to be fair, I'm not an education specialist, so get off my back. But the imagery for text, I think, is really powerful. The people that I felt in my class who did the best were the ones who, and this could mean a couple different things, either like creating a table or a chart, like, summarizing everything, or literally generating a picture that communicates kind of concepts, but like eliminating words and using, images. So I don't know, but I think that
it's sort of, it seems like a mnemonic, but in images basically.
Right?
Yeah.
Using images.
I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but reflecting on now entering like my final year of medical school, like how drastically my like techniques have changed, and they did like talk about this more in the paper, but the shift from like preclinicals where you have a lot of like lectures, for example, like I was the person with the iPad, like highlighting and underlining like what the lecturer was saying, and then like summarizing it, and then like at the end of or in preparations for tests, starting to work on practice testing. And then for me, at least, and I think what's common amongst my peers is the shift to like clinicals when you don't have as many formal lectures and you just honestly like don't have the time to spend like reading a lot of primary sources, the jump into the trial by fire practice testing and learning by practice testing. So just kind of, I guess, like as I reflect on like the start of medical school to now like shifting towards like, I guess I have like one or two more tests before I'm done, like my like shift in like using these different techniques. I know, right? He did it. Well, he's not done yet. He's not done yet.
You're so close.
Well, subjects were also asked about 4 different kinds of learning difficulties they perceived. Difficulties with performance requirements, preparation for exams, lack of freedom to close knowledge gaps, and the amount of content that they had to learn. So,
lack of freedom to close knowledge gaps. That's a huge one.
Is that a big problem? I've often... I'm not sure what the definition exactly of this was, but to me it was like people preventing you in some way from like doing your own.
Well, I guess the way I would interpret that is like moving on from a topic without like a solid grasp of every piece of it, which is a big deal in med school because it's so cumulative. Like the
It's
things
regimented and cumulative.
yeah, like the things you learn at the beginning, you need to get a really good handle on it because everything else is built on that. And I often felt that way, like moving on from a topic before I'm like, wait, I don't understand half of it. And then that compounding with time is really stressful.
I did that as a tutor, and I don't know how I feel about it. And I think it's like delicately interlinked with like the amount of information, where there just was like, for example, like in a 2-hour tutor session, when you just have like such a vast amount of material to cover, when people do ask, when it is, and I would always try and encourage people, like, please don't like lose that inquisitive like aspect, don't like lose that desire to learn more, but just like
But we have to move on. Shut up.
Honestly,
Don't lose your spirit.
Yeah, but honestly, like in this allotted amount of time, like for practical reasons, like you're not going to be assessed on that like deeper knowledge, although it is like important and it's like fundamental to what we're doing. Like
it's fundamental and important. You will be assessed.
So I was out here like teaching to that MFN test.
Yeah.
But it is hard. I think it's so difficult as a medical student when you like want to know more. That's a lot of like people's drive and interest in medicine is wanting to learn more, and it's just with the sheer volume and amount. I think it's really difficult.
These 10 techniques can be sorted into sort of low utility, moderate utility, and high utility techniques. And
can you define some of these for us? Because I'm not sure I know what distributed practice.
I believe that's just like over time. That's like
so you're practicing over time. It's basically
oh my god,
spaced repetition.
Or you could say it's look, if you're doing these methods, after.
What is interleaved practice?
I think we might have to look that one up.
I think interleaved is like doing one topic and then doing a different topic.
Oh, so it's
like doing like the heart and then like doing the skin and then like going back to the heart and then going like to the immune system. Yeah, or at least I think.
I'm really interested in elaborative interrogate. I'm like picturing the like good cop, bad cop.
Is
like,
that just
putting down your like textbook? Like, all right, tell me what you know.
This might be elaborative interrogation. I imagine is sort of Socratic method.
Okay.
So you start with. You start questioning yourself on smaller ideas, moving to bigger ideas, and sort of working towards understanding of your topic that way. Yeah, women showed higher usage of both lower yield techniques and higher yield techniques than men.
They're studying more. Is that what that's saying? Is that they're studying more? Does that mean men are using more of the moderate utility?
I think that means men are using more of the moderate utility.
Okay. Interesting
techniques. Senior students showed a lower usage of low utility techniques than junior students, which makes a lot of sense, I think. And more use of low yield techniques was associated with more difficulties learning, and moderate utility techniques related to less learning difficulties. Wow. So oddly, the high utility learning techniques maybe were somewhere in the middle. Maybe because it's just that much harder.
Is it perception? Was that?
Yeah.
It's in a perception measure?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a perception measure.
Perception of my own difficulty. These are the things that I use, and I have perceived these problems.
Right. Yeah. Which I mean could be just because the higher utility are harder
to do,
and make you feel away.
Horrible. Make you feel dejected. Make you feel stupid. Sorry, I don't like to use the word stupid, but
yes.
Well, let's see. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I didn't get to read the paper, but how did they decide the low, moderate, and high utility categories?
This is from a previous study that has identified these as such.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we've gotten, I think, several presentations now, both from like anatomy folks, neuroanatomy folks, other random MOHD professors who like do a lot of research into like the science of learning. And I think that, I mean, this is like, and like even from our learning specialists, I think that this is like pretty consistent with what they've discussed with us as well.
Yeah, the only thing I was looking at is like for imagery for text, I thought it'd be more high utility because like Sketchy, for example, is so utilized among med students. Right?
Yeah, but I think it's essentially just a mnemonic, right? With what you were saying, right?
I've never actually.
Yeah, I never used Sketchy either, so maybe I'm not. But I think
it's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that too. Actually, I thought that would be more effective as a learning technique, considering how many people use that.
Yeah. Well, and it's probably like all of these is probably effective in some situations than in others, right? Like
I'm seeing this as kind of tiered as like a depth of like understanding as well, or like you think of like the hierarchy of like knowledge, whereas like practice testing, for example, like requires
say Maslow's
Maslow's hierarchy. Yeah.
Who's Bloom's right now?
Bloom's taxonomy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Correct. Where I feel like imagery for text, you're just kind of like helping yourself memorize something as opposed to elaborative interrogation or self-explanation where you're like pressing yourself to like learn more and dig deeper.
Right.
I guess how I was conceptualizing that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Shortcoats, if you're enjoying our conversation today, I'd be grateful if you'd let people know by posting a story on Instagram or Facebook or tweeting about us. And don't forget to tag us in your post.
Thank you.
Since we're welcoming a new class of medical and PA students to the Carver College of Medicine, and since we're talking about learning techniques, let's see how you did learning. I thought we'd celebrate this long-standing tradition in medical education, PIMPing.
Ooh.
For those who don't know, this is a teaching method whereby ideally an attending physician asks students questions of increasing difficulty in order to educate. Less ideally, it's a backronym for put in my place, in which attendings ask questions of esoteric knowledge students can't reasonably know the answers to in order to humiliate them. So let's do this. I want you to pimp each other on knowledge that second year, people who have finished their first year should have.
Oh, God.
This is going to turn into a battle royale. We're just going to be stabbing each other.
My heart is racing.
This is a literal, this is like a Reddit, like, nightmare rape.
But also, just to increase the difficulty factor.
Oh no, that's a no for me. I do not like those things.
To increase the difficulty factor, the answerer has to wear mouth spreaders.
Oh my God.
My God. What is this?
That's so
Nathen,
cute.
why don't you be the questioner first?
Oh my God.
Okay.
And you can pick your victim.
We're passing these around after.
Oh, okay.
After talking about monkeypox.
So to clarify, am I just asking a random, and this is for anybody?
Yeah, whoever.
And y'all just finished MOHD 3.
Aline, by the way, you can put the mouth spreader in with your mask on.
All right, I realized that after I remembered my mask.
Okay, let's pick like let's pretend we're on like a rotation or something to like give you. Like,
who are you gonna pick? Who needs to put their mouth spreader in?
Aline first.
My God. All right.
Aline, what rotation did you just finish?
OB.
OBGYN. Okay. All right. Aline, we will start off nice and slow.
Okay.
I think is nice and slow.
I thought it was one question.
Oh wait, yeah. Oh yeah, right. No, I'm gonna ask just like one, hopefully like not too like wild question.
Okay.
Aline, what is one maternal hormone that can increase the risk of maternal diabetes?
Oh, HPL.
Yeah, you got it. For the class, would you like to share what HPL is?
What is it? Human placental something?
Lactogen. Yeah.
Lactogen.
L.
HPL is secreted at the placenta. I hate this so much. This is a fucking nightmare. It's secreted at the placenta, and it increases basically insulin resistance in the other. I don't remember the mechanism exactly. I hate this so much.
Applause! Yeah. I think you did pretty good.
Kind of gave you like a Valley
good.
Girl accent for a hot second.
I don't even know what accent this is. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm gonna take this out right now. Okay, thanks.
Aline, I know you have to go to meet with Dr. Rahal.
Oh no, I have
Why don't
to
you wear
leave.
that to your meeting with Dr. Rahal?
Don't take off your mask.
Don't take off your mask. Just go in.
This isn't actually a important reading, so
That's also good because she's an endocrinologist. So
she would be very cool about this. Okay. Well, it was great playing with you guys and podcasting with you guys. Have a good rest of your time.
Oh, why?
What rotation did you just do?
I just finished child and adolescent psychiatry.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know anything about that, so.
You
can go with
do
M1.
like neuroanatomy.
You want me to do a neuro question?
You can go with M1
you
stuff.
can do
too.
like neuroanatomy.
If you want me to ask a neuro question, I'm literally gonna vomit.
We should try and ask him a psych question.
I think the
big bits go on the inside, and then
and the U goes down.
Another way. There you go.
There you go.
That's hot.
We could do anatomy.
Oh shit! I hadn't taken that for 3.5 years.
That's
okay. No,
I'll do an easy one. I'll do an easy one. Name a muscle in the anterior forearm compartment.
Muscle? What about like the brachioradialis? Is that?
No, just the way you said it. It was right. You're right.
Yeah, you're right.
It's hard to do the letter that the I can't even say the letter because you're what's the animal that goes buzz the letter
B.
Yeah,
B. The letter
so it's a radialis.
Good job. Excellent work.
Oh, there you go.
I guess now it's your turn, Shana, to ask a question.
You ask me a question. Do I need to put one up?
Yes.
Nathan, would you be a great friend and help me, please?
I like it. Something's jacked up about your left side. Part of it should be on the outside. You've got the whole thing in your mouth.
Oh, there you go.
And I like how, I mean, you're showing off a little bit, but yeah.
Sorry.
There you go.
I like drooling in this.
Please, there are tissues there.
I'm trying to
Please tag the short code when you post that.
Cheers.
Sure.
Okay, so you just finished teaching IMEI or talked about foundations with the new folks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you remember 2 proteins that help in like retrograde transport from the rough endoplasmic reticulum to the Golgi apparatus.
What? Two?
Yeah. Good. Do you remember?
Clathrons?
Do you remember?
Clathrons?
Yeah. Do you remember which one goes anterior? Oh, sorry, I get one question, but
you do. You're gonna ask me which one goes which way. Yeah, I don't know. They did ask a question about that.
I remember it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Oh, that's
There
good.
you go.
That's actually no. I'm literally drooling on myself. Yeah. That's a.
I think you can take it out now.
Yeah, I can take it out.
All right. Well, Shana hasn't done it yet.
Question?
I just got my whistle.
She got out of her questioning.
Dave, you're the question master now.
Oh, I don't know things. All right.
You knew blepharospasm. Don't sell
it's
yourself short.
Pretty much exhausted my.
I wasn't able to answer that question though. Oh my god.
What is
name?
Oh, okay, that's also fine.
Name the cells that enable hearing in the cochlea.
Ooh.
I hate myself. God.
The cells.
Like the.
Name the cells.
Are you
The ones
Googling
with the
I am
hairs?
because I want to make sure I.
Is it like the ones with the hairs? And
Yeah.
like the fluid, like mechanical translators?
Yeah. I think that's just.
Very.
Oh,
I
okay.
definitely. That's not right though.
I mean, they have a name.
Yeah, there's a name that I don't know.
I'm Googling it.
This is what I have to look
Oh,
for.
that's not at all what I thought it was. I mean, yeah, the hair cells.
Yeah, you got it.
Is that the name?
Yeah.
Oh,
But there must be a better name for it. I was thinking
No,
Purkinje
but-
cells, but that's in the heart.
You're thinking Purkinje fibers,
fibers?
Yeah.
which I guess they would also have cells, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would.
Technically, yeah.
There are cells. Yep.
Yeah.
Good job.
Hey, good job, Shana.
Look at us.
You guys know things.
Getting pimped and
You thought this was all about humiliating you, but no, I've just proved that you know things still.
But when are you gonna? Are you gonna answer a question?
All right.
Oh wait, okay. So this is something that like Dave should that Dave should know. Okay.
What's a question that an idiot would know?
You are not an idiot. What is like one of your favorite topics in medicine?
Oh, no, I hear topics in medicine all around the social aspects of medicine.
Social.
Oh, here we go. So there's a specific type of delusion in psychiatry where if one person has a delusion, for example, that like I'm infested with mites, and with that like repetition and intensity, oftentimes in like living partners or like social context, somebody else can also share and develop that delusion. There's a specific name. Do you know what this is called?
Well, all I can think of is like transference. Oh, that's not it.
You are correct. That is not it.
See, I know what it's not.
That's an important first step.
Oh gosh. So it's like, and then I would go with hot psychology, and that's hysteria.
It is not.
What is this accent?
It is not wandering you.
What is happening?
I don't know if I was like that terrified.
I just drooled on my own hand.
You're right. It's not transference. Do you have?
It's not massive.
It's French.
Oh, it's French.
It has a French name.
It's French.
Omelette du fromage.
It is Harry and
Escargot.
delusion.
Trabia.
I don't know.
Okay, it's called folie à deux.
Oh, I have heard that term.
But there you go. That's like a social.
You just came after French.
Social psychology. I did. Yeah.
You just came after French.
I did.
How was it?
That was a really good French accent.
Yeah, right? Oh my gosh, it was phenomenal. So I spent a week in the bopping along the Riviera, which was so. Oh, get him a tissue.
Get him a tissue.
Covered with saliva. I'm not usually covered in saliva on a Friday.
What a way to end the week, though. That's how we ended at the short coat.
Nice.
Welcome to medical school, to our new M1s and PA1s.
That's our show. Shana, Noah, Nathan, Aline, thanks for joining me on the show today.
It was a pleasure.
Hey, no worries.
And what kind of pox would I be if I didn't thank you, Shortcoats, for making us a part of your week? If you're new here and you like what you heard today, follow the show wherever fine podcasts are available, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Thank you to this week's producer, Noah Wick. Thank you, Noah Wick.
Hey, no problem. My pleasure.
And to this week's editors, Katie Hyam Kessler and Zachary Fleischacker. The show is made possible by a generous donation by Carver College of Medicine student government and ongoing support from the Writing and Humanities program. Our music is by Dr. Fox and Catmosphere. I'm David Etler saying, don't let the bastards get you down. Talk to you in 1 week. Hi, Shortcoats. Look, life in medical education, life in America, life in the world is often difficult. And I often wish I could help. All I have is this podcast, but in my wildest dreams, you have the support you need to lead a life of your choosing. You deserve to be happy, healthy, and successful in whatever ways you define those words. So if you need support because you've experienced racism, discrimination, harassment, mental health crises, I want you to be able to get the help that you need. And so I'm going to put some links in the show notes to some resources that you can use. But the bottom line is that, for what it's worth, I see you. I know you're out there. I wish I could do more. Maybe I can in ways that I don't understand yet or know about. But I see you, and I'm glad you're here, and other people are too. This Shortcode podcast is a proud member of the MedEd Media Network. Inspiration, information, and guidance on your journey to medical school and beyond at mededmedia.com.